Hello and welcome to Larissa's Kitchen. Today I'm making shrimp po' boys and hush puppies along with remoulade. Now under normal circumstances I would cook and narrate at the same time. But today we're going to be doing this a little bit differently. All of these things have to go together quickly and cook very quickly. So there won't be time for me to do take 2 or 3 or 5 if you've watched this show and seen any of the outtakes. So let's get started. To start the remoulade, I've got my food processor with my work bowl and the knife blade attached. This is 1 large egg, 1/4 cup of green onions, 1/4 cup of white onions, 3 tablespoons of packed parsley, this is fresh, 1 tablespoon of celery seeds, 1 teaspoon of cayenne powder, a little bit of kosher salt, this is probably about 1/2 teaspoon, a tablespoon of prepared horseradish, 1/4 cup of lemon juice. Now this is fresh lemon juice. Okay, I'm using an adjustable cup measuring cup to do these. This is 3 tablespoons of Creole mustard, 3 tablespoons of yellow prepared mustard, and 3 tablespoons of ketchup. This is all going in the work bowl of the food processor as well. We're also going to need some fresh cracked black pepper, probably about 1/4 teaspoon. I'm going to go ahead and lid it up and process on low. Okay, once this is completely smooth, we're going to go ahead and add 1 cup of canola oil while the food processor is running. Alright, we're going to get it into a bowl, cover it, and then it's going to go in the refrigerator until we're ready to use it. Next up, we need to address the shrimp. This is 2 pounds of jumbo shrimp, and it does need to be rinsed. We're going to need to take the tails off of these shrimp. Now, if your shrimp have shells, those are going to have to come off as well. Any shrimp that have a mud vein present, which is actually just the large intestine, needs to be removed. We'll just cut into that with a sharp knife, just barely, and then rinse out or peel out the large intestine. Next up, we need to start on the batter for this shrimp. That's 1 cup of all-purpose flour, 1/4 cup of cornstarch, 2 tablespoons or so of potato flakes, 2 tablespoons of seasoning salt, 1 teaspoon of cayenne powder, and 1 tablespoon of granulated garlic. We're just going to whisk all this together to incorporate. We're going to be adding 1½ to 2 cups of club soda to this batter. Now this batter is going to be very thin because the potato flakes are going to take a couple of minutes to absorb and thicken. So you initially want this to be a little bit too thin. After about 5 minutes, it'll be the perfect consistency. We're also going to need a few cups of panko breadcrumbs. You may need to add more of these if your breadcrumbs start to become too lumpy from all the batter. We're going to go ahead and batter these shrimp 4 or 5 at a time. They'll come out of the batter, let them drain a little bit, and then they go into the panko breadcrumbs to be coated. Once they're coated, they go out onto a tray to allow to dry while you finish the rest of the shrimp. Don't worry about stacking these shrimp on top of each other. They won't stick together. I've got a large bunch of watercress here. Now I like watercress better than lettuce for this because the watercress is peppery. I've also got these cherry tomatoes that I'm quartering. If left whole, these cherry tomatoes would be too big for this sandwich. These are New England split top rolls. We're going to be toasting these. Last but not least, we're going to get the hush puppy ingredients put together. This is 1 cup of yellow cornmeal and a 1/4 cup of all-purpose flour, a 1/4 cup of very finely minced green onions, 3/4 of a teaspoon of baking powder, a 1/4 teaspoon of baking soda, and a 1/2 teaspoon of kosher salt, along with 1 tablespoon of white granulated sugar. Now we're just going to mix this together with a fork. Eventually, we're going to add 1/2 cup of buttermilk along with 1 large egg that have been beaten together. We don't want to add these too early because the buttermilk and the baking soda and baking powder will react to make this batter puffy. If we wait too long, it could deflate before we bake them. I'm going to be scooping these into the hot oil with a 2 tablespoon disher. Behind that thermometer is my frying station. The oil temperature is on the right and the target temperature is on the left. We're going to be frying everything at 350 degrees. At 280 degrees, we're going to mix together the batter for the hush puppies, since those are going in the oil first. Okay, once the temperature comes up to 350 degrees, we're going to scoop these into the hot oil. The wonderful thing about hush puppies is when they're ready to turn over, they roll themselves over in the oil. So you need to make sure you've got about 1.5 inches of oil in the bottom of your pan. These are going to cook for probably a total of 4 minutes, maybe a little bit longer because you want them to be golden brown on both sides. Now sometimes they're recalcitrant and don't turn over on their own, so you will have to roll them a little bit with a spider. That's what I'm using to drain these with. Once these are nicely browned on both sides, we're going to remove these from the pan and drain them on a baking sheet that's been lined with a couple layers of paper towels. Once the oil comes back up to temperature, we're going to fry these shrimp probably close to a dozen at a time. Once you get all the shrimp in the oil, we're going to set the timer for exactly 2 minutes. When the 2 minutes is up, these shrimp are coming out. To assemble these sandwiches, I'm starting with the watercress first. Then I'm just going to put down a little bit of the remoulade and then top that with just a few of the tomatoes. Now you could put as many tomatoes on as you want. And then top that with 4 shrimp. On top of it all goes a little bit more remoulade. All right, let's give these hush puppies and shrimp po' boys a taste. I could live on these. I could live on these.